Hello everyone, here follows an important topic about the point that it is hard or almost impossible to get a hold of the corona epidemic, which also concerns other epidemics. This is a text provided by FIGU in Switzerland, Border Scientific Community. It was done on Wednesday, the 1st of March 2017, in a conversation between two scientists, Billy and Peta, in contact report 675, and the link will be provided below. Search for the Epidemic Centrifuge. Peta says, immune sick persons, or super spreaders, or super circulators, are people in social networks and maintain particularly many contacts with fellow human beings. In this way, they contribute particularly strongly to the further spread of infectious diseases, and especially also epidemics. As a rule, they unconsciously pass diseases on to other patients, whereby this often carelessly, irresponsibly, or even deliberately maliciously comes about. However, immune sick persons, respectively super spreaders, form a factor by which epidemics can be prevented, and especially then when they observe their responsibility and stay away from their fellow human beings instead of approaching them and infecting them. This, however, as a rule, they do not do, which quickly increases the rate of infection, making an epidemic unavoidable, and this can spread further. If, however, already at the beginning of a disease or epidemic, care is taken that sick individuals, respectively super spreaders, have only little or no contact to the environment and thus to their fellow human beings, then the probability is much lower or even completely banished, respectively, that no outbreaks or outbreak of an epidemic occur. The immune sick, as well as we call this type of disease carriers, who are themselves immune to the disease whose pathogens they carry, infect extraordinarily many fellow human beings, especially with regards to all infectious diseases. If an epidemic occurs, then the course of an epidemic is very much dependent on the immune sick, or the super spreaders, and their constitution. With this it happens namely that the normal influence of infection is changed, which leads to an excessive number of infections. An immune sick acts like a wandering infection catapult and spreads an epidemic much faster than, for example, a number of 20 or more people infected with a communicable disease who remain outside the reach of their fellow humans. Especially at the beginning of an epidemic, it is of great importance when an immune sick person is among those infected that he behaves responsibly and isolates himself from his healthy fellow human beings. But if he fails to do so, he becomes significantly responsible for the further development of the outbreak and the spread of an epidemic. Importantly, it is also a fact that a person's contagious potential depends on very personal characteristics of his immune system, which determines how strongly it contributes to the spread of infectious diseases. If immune sick could be identified at the beginning of an outbreak of an epidemic, then their isolation would be possible, which, however, is not possible with the methods of current earthly medicine. Then the contact persons of the immune sick individuals could not be protected by corresponding vaccination or by corresponding disease protecting drugs. As a result of this fact, even epidemics cannot be nipped in the bud by Earth's population. Isolation, voluntarily or legally carried through, would importantly, however, be the right and effective targeting measure because even medication and vaccination of large sections of the population are generally unable to fully guarantee the spread of a disease in the form of an epidemic. On Earth, where medicine is still quite deficient in every respect despite great progress, unfortunately infectious persons cannot always be detected even during an outbreak of an epidemic. In order to be able to determine immune sick, very extensive investigations and clarifications are necessary, as well as a precise determination of the transmission pathways of the disease, whereby it is also necessary to carry out the necessary measures to prevent the spread of the disease or even the occurrence of an epidemic. But in this respect, as I said before, earthly medicine is still very disadvantageously underdeveloped and rudimentary. The factors to be mentioned in relation to immune sick individuals vary from disease to disease, as they also have different causes, whereby a weakened immune system can be just as important as a genetic predisposition, but also mutation, physical mobility, as a disease, another disease, or a behavioral ingredient, that is to say, behavioral component. Importantly, the profession and living conditions of the infected person are also important, as is the number of pathogens excreted by the immune sick, referring to viral load here, probably the weakened immune system, as well as an additional disease, also more or less harmless, such as bronchitis, colds, coughs, or other sniffles, are also able to increase, intensify the condition of the immune sick, and thus the infectivity, because one disease helps the other to break out. Not uncommonly, it is however also the case that external unpredictable factors help the viruses to spread and trigger a disease and epidemic. An effective fact is nevertheless that it would be very considerably advantageous if immune sick individuals and therefore highly infectious people could be identified in the terrestrial population before they can transmit infections. But unfortunately, terrestrial medicine is not yet in a position to do so due to its still deep deficiency. In this way, still very much remains to be done by earthly humanity, respectively the medical research, especially in the aforementioned case in relation to the factors of multi-layered infectivity. And Billy says, thank you for your execution. When I think about it, I also find that more and more allergies and diseases are arising because an increasingly unhealthy sterility, that is, spreading weakens the immunity system, that is, immune system of the earthlings, and makes them more susceptible to bacteria, parasites, and viruses, which is to be continued. Thank you for your attention.